Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Stuck Apart, aka Azizler. So just to avoid any confusion before we start, there are actually two titles to this film. Stuck Apart is the title that it's given in English-speaking countries and other countries as far as I'm aware, and Azizler is the actual title given to it in its native country, which is Turkey. The plot centers around this character named Aziz, who is apparently going through an existential crisis, and we see evidence of this in the beginning of the story when he's about to break up with his girlfriend in the middle of a cafe. Over the course of the story, we see a bunch of random things happen to Aziz as he goes along. He's not really enchanted with his work anymore, he doesn't have a lot of friends to hang out with, and he feels awkward whenever he goes to parties, considering that they're all filled mostly with younger people in their 20s and 30s, and he just feels like he can't relate to them anymore, and he mostly just wants to be by himself the whole time. He's also stuck living at his sister's home along with his father-in-law and his nephew, and he constantly hates dealing with them every day, and he just wishes he was by himself the whole time throughout the movie. I like that they had a dramatic focus to Aziz's character in this respect, because existentialism is a hard topic for many people to go through, and it happens to everybody at every age. It doesn't just happen at old age, it also happens to people who, for example, are my age when they're approaching 30. And I like that they showed all of these random things happening to Aziz and how they affected him, as well as the thoughts that were going on in his head at the time that results in him wanting to be by himself. And I like how they also show other characters that are checking in on Aziz and making sure he's okay, and they all want to get up in his business and try to hang out with him, but Aziz is always trying to push them away. He always wants to be by himself, and he feels like other people are trying to encroach themselves into his business when he really just wants to live the life that he wants to live. That being said, I felt like they could have done more with Aziz's character in the story. It mostly just shows him going around from plot point to plot point and being mopey, and then all of a sudden an opportunity is granted to him and his story is resolved. That's it. There's no other sort of things that happen that are special that leads him toward wanting this life of solitude. It all of a sudden just happens like that, and that's it. I felt like they were going somewhere with the whole necklace angle that happens at the beginning, although, to be honest, I'm still not quite sure what the meaning is behind that scene. If there's someone in the comments that wants to inform me on that, let me know. There's this whole debacle at the beginning where he's trying to break up with his girlfriend and how she complains that he's not wearing the necklace that she gave him. And I just felt that there could have been a lot more development. I also found that whole scene to be really weird because she just repeats the same dialogue over and over and over again, and it just felt pretty uncomfortable to watch, if I'm being honest. I don't know, I felt like they were going somewhere with it. Maybe I didn't get the meaning of it, but Aziz's angle in the story, in my opinion, just felt pretty undercooked. On the other hand, there's another character in the story whose character arc I absolutely love. The character Urbay is one of the other main characters in the story, and he is by far the main highlight of what this film has going for. He's a widower whose wife died of cancer, and he also happens to be dying of cancer as well by the time the film starts. I just loved Urbay's character arc in this film. It felt whole, it felt complete, it felt really sweet with the dialogue at times and how he's trying to come to terms with his age and his life as it comes to an end. There was just a complete 180 as far as Urbay's character's arc was concerned compared to what we got with Aziz. I also have to say that he is by far the funniest character in the whole film. I won't spoil it for those who want to see it, but there's so many golden lines and just nuggets of wisdom that he has throughout the story, and he always gives them even when people don't want them, and it's just hilarious to see people react to his random quirky idioms and sayings. I can think of one example where Aziz and Urbay are looking for the necklace together, and Aziz is like, "Where did you put the necklace?" And Urbay says something like, "I don't know, maybe the cat dragged it away somewhere." And Aziz goes, "Wait, you have a cat?" And Urbay's like, "No, but I want one." There's just so many weird random things that happen and things that he said. Anything that just surrounds Urbay is just so random, and I love randomness. That's my favorite type of humor, is just when something happens out of nowhere like that. I feel like they gave more of the dramatic side of things in this film to Aziz and put more of a comedic perspective towards Urbay. And honestly, I would have preferred if there was a mix of both for both characters. I think they could have nailed a perfect balance of drama and comedy in this story, but I think it leans more towards the comedic aspect of things, and that's where some things and some scenes can go really off the rails, especially with the nephew in this character. Aziz's nephew is the most ear-gratingly annoying character in this whole film, possibly I've seen at least in the past decade. I don't know what it is, but just like this little kid bosses around his parents, he's constantly making orders, he like does a million pull-ups on a pull bar, and it's just like so ridiculously absurd. And I think that's the idea of this film, is that there's a lot of absurdist humor in it, but I don't think the themes of this story really fit with absurdism. I don't know, I just felt there were a lot of scenes in this film that were really silly and unnecessary as far as comedy was concerned, and that nephew annoyed the hell out of me. He just, I could not wait for him to be off camera as soon as he was on camera. That being said, there is one hilarious scene involving the nephew in a sort of background kind of way. Aziz is always suggesting to his sister, the parent of his nephew, that she needs to get that child tested because there's clearly something wrong with him, because he's acting like a complete sociopath throughout the entire story. And the nephew's parents are in this doctor's office, and he makes this long, protracted build-up towards his diagnosis, and he's like, "Unfortunately, your son is a jerk." It's just the way that whole scene builds up toward that, and the parents' reactions to that diagnosis. The mother is just losing her mind, and then the father's like trying to console her, and while he's crying at the same time too. Just the sheer nonsensicalness of it all was amazing. That was by far my favorite comedy scene, and it didn't even involve Herbe. That surprised me the most, is that it didn't involve any of the main characters, but oh man, I love that. I felt that the comedy didn't always land where it should, but when it did land, oh boy, it was awesome. Overall, Azizler is a okay dramedy. It's not really terrible, but it's not really bad either. You could do with a lot worse. I felt that they could have done a lot more with it, as well as the characters that they were featuring in the story. They just could have done a little bit more with everything. I felt if they give like an extra 10 or 15 minutes in the story to try and iron things out, especially as far as Aziz's aspect is concerned, I felt that the plot and the whole aspect surrounding existentialism and crises and all that, and trying to deal with age and death as you approach closer towards it, I felt that would have landed more closer to home than what it did actually with this story. But overall, Azizler is a pretty decent movie. Some of the comedy scenes are good, and some of the drama scenes are good. So overall, you can't really go wrong if you do decide to watch it. Thanks for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the science fiction action film Outside the Wire. Bye-bye.